Okay, so we're going to double load. I'm going to start with my mini fan. I'm using that to be able to go in around our piece. So it's basically around her feet that we've already base coated. If you haven't base coated this ahead of time, we are, because we're in class mode and we only have so much time, you could be doing your grass underneath everything ahead of time and then base coating her. The only other thing about that is that you end up having the texture from the grass throughout the frog's leg then, and only where the leg sticks over the chair. So you're still probably better off to do it like this. So that's where I need to be concerned about, is around the feet. So I've got my fan double loaded. I put my fan, what would we calling this, horizontally, like lay it down flat. I'll just come close to here because I got more paint on that side right now. And I just tap my way out. And I'm going to go for a little bit bigger fan after I get around where I've base coated. So I'm just working in the areas that I previously base coated. And if you get any on your chair or on your leg, you can just touch that up before we do our shading. So okay, we've got that in there. I see another spot. I'm not really sure actually if this is under the camera now that I think about it. And we're going to be using our chisel of our brush to kind of bring a little bit of grass streaked up off that. You can use the flat of it too, but you'll get them all in one little spot, so we can kind of do little flips back and forth afterwards, just bringing up some like that. Then I'm going to switch to a bigger fan, double load. And I'm going to come in and I'll just tap my way like so. So I want to leave it jagged off the end. So that's why when we said a wash uneven at the ends, if you feel like, oh, that's what you meant, uneven. So now you can just bring them out past where you did. So you're just going to go along and you're going to complete the rest. I'm not concerned about these legs. I can tap because we're going to base coat them afterwards. I do want to come right in here between this part of the chair. So if I get it on the legs, it is not a big deal. So my fan is just the tip of the fan laying like so. Both colors, double load, pat on the palette, and back and forth. I just tap back and forth and it creates that grassy look. Once we've got I'm just going to do this section here for you. Once we've got this done, I'm going to take and I'm going to be tapping my dirty brush into a little bit of Lighthouser green, pat it on the palette, and just come through and tap in a little bit of a highlight. Just a little here and there. You don't want to put highlight underneath the chairs, right? We want the highlight off at the edges. So you'll just kind of go through, tap a little bit of highlight, and you're good to go. All right, there we go. All in video. Okay, so we're going to be shading. I'm going to use my 3/8 and shade where I have larger areas, and I'll use my 1/4 in the smaller areas. We're going to shade all along next to her bathing suit, and that's why we don't have it base coated at this point, because then we can just shade right into the area. We don't have to be so precious with our shading. Walk it out. Shade behind. And I'll be using my 1/4 to get into those areas. We'll shade along her legs. It just kind of gives them a bit of a line next to her bathing suit. And we're going to do the same thing on both frogs. I'll walk those out. Remember, you don't press hard when you're shading. You press hard when you blend on your palette, and when you shade, you do a nice soft float, so that way you don't get a trim looking line, as well as you can float for a long time. All the way along beside her bathing suit. I will shade behind her legs. So you see that it takes shape, and we can start to see we can start to see where her shading is on her face. And I'll switch to my quarter. And we don't want to have a big heavy load on our brush when we go in and shade where her mouth is. I'm going to shade under her sunglasses, and again, they're not base coated right now, so that way we can just be nice and carefree, and you get it on the sunglasses, it doesn't matter because they're not even base coated at this point. So you like to do as much shading as you can before base coating. You see how I can get right into that area and not have to worry about it. I'm using my 1/4 inch to do the rest on her little fingers. And now I can come along and I can float and give her the dent for her mouth. You can even go back to back and do top and bottom if you want. You know, it's something you won't really notice too much. I'll just come back along there. I snuck away from the line a bit. So I'm going to go ahead, do her fingers the same way I just did. And I'm just letting that dry a smidge, and I can come in and do her little nostrils. You like to do these things when you don't have too much left on the brush, so you're not going to end up with heavy little dents for nostrils. And the same thing with her little belly button. We're going to give her a little, I don't have anything almost left on the brush there. Going to give her her little dented belly button, and I will be shading under here as well. So we're going to do this, we're going to let it dry a bit, and then we're going to do our dry brush highlights.
Got to do my nostrils, I think.
We're going to dry brush using a dome stippler. So I'm using a 1/4 inch dome stippler. I'm going to dry brush a little highlight.
With what color?
With the celery shoot.
Awesome.
The middle of the legs. Little in there on her arm. You can go right in the middle of the mouth if you want. And if there's like the little bits on the arms and on the toes, I'm going to switch to my 1/8 lunar blender. Just I tend to use a rect one to do little tiny areas, so you can just scratch a little bit on her arm where you have that skinny bit of an arm, and on the fingers, and you're going to do the same on your other frog. Do a little on his toes. So that's our highlighting that we're going to put on this. We're going to dry brush that, and it pops it right out nicely. Okay, that's our mission. I'm going to use thin down avocado, and I'm going to pull in the line for the mouth. I'm also, I can enhance, if I'd like, my little nostrils, even her little belly button, but it will help to do a line for her fingers. to outline her fingers and toes. I'm not even thinking, but outline her toes. And you can outline right along the outer edges of it as well. We are going to put a wash on our glass, so you'll probably get a bit on your fingers so you can kind of touch those up afterwards. So I'll leave those and put them on once I've done my glass. Basically, we're going to do that, and we're going to come back for cheeks. We're going to take, I'm going to use my 1/8 domed stippler, and I'm going to nice and softly dry brush some Terra Coral for cheeks. Just soft. We don't want to have her looking like a harlot, so we're just bringing in a little tiny bit. Then I'm going to take my 0 round and I'm going to use the Terra Coral, and we're going, actually I wanted a bit of Joyful Pink in there. Here we go. So I'm just brush mixing the two together. Just pick it up, and so we'll get her a little more pinky. So for lipsticks, you're always just 2 circles for the top. Oh, I won't bother with that one right now. So it's 2 circles for the top, and then a little, never bring the bottom one to the same distance out as your top one. We are going to come back and highlight these later. But right now, with whatever I have left here between those mixes, I'm going to come in and I'm going to just add little fingernails. This one I only see part of that finger. So you can just add her fingernail polish. That's that. And she needs to have her little toes done. I was thinking about her later. I was thinking about our chicken, and I thought, gee, she could have a little anklet on. It would be cute, and we could put a little ring or bling on that finger. She could be engaged even. That's what they could be celebrating. All right, so that's where we're now. We're going to shade the hat, and you're going to walk it out nice and far. This is a really terrible piece to shade because the edges, and I sealed it twice, but it's not regular wood, it's balsa wood. So I sealed it, and it still left very rough. So then I put 2 coats of ultra matte varnish. Still it's doing it. So now we're shading inside our hat brim, and we want to walk that out. And I'm going to dry that, just a quick little dry. Now we haven't base coated our band yet, so that's why we wait and do it like this. Because I don't have to be overly careful. I'm worried about getting it on anything. And now I'd come down in here and shade next to her face. Same thing on this side. Walk that out a bit. Nice and soft. Mop it. And I'm going to come in here and darken that as well. And you see, you don't have to worry about the sunglasses. I don't have to worry about those areas. So it makes it nice and walk that out. And I'm not concerned about the band because that's going to get base coated as another step. I've dried it, and I'm going to come around my outer edge. You can see the odd places that it grabs on this. I'll dry that. So we're going to take, and I'm going to shade with raw umber, and I'm going to strengthen up the shading on my hat. So we're strengthening up the shading on the hat. So we'll come in and darken up, and you'll see, you can follow that on your photo or just kind of with a women, just do your own thing. Just strengthen it up. You never want to walk it out too far that it covers all of your first shading. So we just come in and strengthen up these areas inside. Nice and soft. We're going to dry brush in the top, and I'm dry brushing sand. I think I like it a little stronger than that. Nice and soft, some sand. I'll just put a little inside here, not much. And then I've enlarged mine, but you're going to take camel, and you can use a liner or a zero round. I'm using a number 1 liner because mine has been enlarged so much. And just coming back with a highlight line of the camel that we actually based this in. And then I'm going to tip into a little bit of sand and just streak a little bit brighter, more in the middle up here. Okay, so we'll do that. That's our highlights. We've dry brushed and we added the trim. Nice and softly, we're going to float neutral gray. And this is another reason we don't have our stripes base coated. We can just float all the way through here. And this shades all of our white stripes, that are basically white stripes. We don't have to worry about going through where the stripes are. What color are her stripes? She's the girl with the blue stripes. And so we just shade right through there. I'll shade next to her hat up top. Underneath. I'm not sure which part is blue and which part is white, so it doesn't really matter. We'll just come through here, nice and soft. And the same thing over here, all the way up this side, next to our girl. So I have to shade under that arm, but it's still in a wet spot, so we won't do anything there. So once we've done that, then we're going to take warm white. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to stifle them, and they're not wanting to stay down. So we take the warm white, and we just float all the way up the outside edge. So this is putting our highlight. The other chair, of course, the outer edge trim happens to be, that stripe on the outer edge happens to be the dark color. So we won't be putting a white float there. But we will do it on this one. And then as we do our homework, we're going to be base coating every second stripe, and you just take a look at your picture. The bottom one is blue, then white, then blue, then white. So you just come along here and float your white. This is a terrible piece of wood. It's balsa wood, so it's terrible to float and shade on. I even put 2 coats of, I already talked about that in the other video, but I put 2 coats of ultra matte varnish. Bye, Deb.
Bye, Deb.
So I put 2 coats of ultra matte varnish on here, and it still wants to grab as I float along there. So you see how that worked out to give us, now when we base coat, our other stripes are already shaded and highlighted for us, the light ones. So that's just another quickie. So I'm just going to scuff off some neutral gray on my dry brush, and I'm going to very nice and softly to the left side of my lenses, I'll dry brush a little neutral gray. See, she's Miss Hollywood already. Then I'm going to take neutral gray, and I'm going to add a couple of commas. So we'll add a comma and a little line. And then I'll pick up warm white and repeat it. I'm going to just take a little bit of that gray off of there. So the warm white is just a little bit above. So there's her, I'll put a little heavier comma there. So there's her little highlights on her lenses. And then we will go, you do it on both of them, you can see it in your photos, and we will go ahead and then do all of our base coating. I will show you her lipstick though, before. Her yipstick that she gets at Home Depot. I'm sure everybody in the world has seen that. Do you guys see the terra coral on my desk? Nope.
Oh, under that.
Aha.
No, that's not it.
That's not it.
Yep, that's Terra Coral, and
Oh,
then
is it?
this one
Okay.
is Joyful Pink. Is that the other color? Yes, eh? So we're gonna take, and I'm gonna, I just got electric shocks again. I saved that. Okay, so I'm gonna take a dry brush again, and I'm gonna take Terra Coral. And nice and soft, dry brush a faint cheek. We're talking not very much, just at the end of her mouth. So that's that little bit of cheek on there. And then I'm going to pick up Terra Coral and a bit of Joyful Pink, just with my liner, or pardon me, my round. And I just pick up both and just kind of brush mix it. And we will add her little lips. And we'll come down underneath here. You don't want to bring the bottom all the way to the edge there, right? We leave the top lip a little bit bigger. And we will be adding a highlight in that to that next week. Okay, so I'm also going to come in here with what's on my brush and do her fingernails. And yes, I already know one of the girls is missing her nail polish on her hands. And yes, I already know that I've already varnished my bucket and it still didn't get done. So, and I'm giving her her little toenails as well. So, you're just putting a little bit on there. Is it?
No, that's not catching the toes.
There. Knock it off, camera. Catch the grandma. Okay. So we'll just, like I say, I'll paint these little toenails. Give her her polish. And we're going to add some highlights and stuff to her lips next week. All right. You guys want to borrow my dry brush for cheeks? Pass it around. Alrighty.